Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So last time we started with this uh, lecture in which I told you that we have to cover a number of topics in series. So we started with the initial stuff that was related to the tray efficiency or column efficiency. And before starting that, yesterday we discussed that before reaching to this point, we have already studied the calculation of theoretical number of trays required for either absorber or stripper. And two methods were discussed in early lectures, and those include tray number of trays by using graphical method, or then Kremser method, or which is also called algebraic or analytical method. And just after that, then we started with this, that why we need the efficiency, because on each tray, although we consider that vapor and liquid will reach to the equilibrium, but in practical it is not they don't reach to the equilibrium. It is not 100% possible. Yes, they can reach to somehow near to the equilibrium, but not completely. And due to that reason, when you have done the calculations earlier, uh, to find the number of trays, which are we are calling theoretical number of trays, in those we take such kind of assumption that vapor and liquid are reaching to the equilibrium. But practically this doesn't happen on each plate. So due to this reason, to achieve certain purification, to achieve certain separation, you will need more trays as compared to the trays which you have already calculated. And then there came the concept of tray efficiency. So there was an equation that relates the number of theoretical trays and as well as number of actual trays. So E naught was equal to NT, number of theoretical plates over number of actual plates. And then we said that there are four different ways by which you can find the efficiency of trays throughout the column. And first one was by using the existing data of some plants. And then the second one was empirical equation, which were also developed based on the data collected from various plants, as we are calling it empirical relationships. So they are based on totally experimentation. Number of scientists, they took the data from various plants, and they developed equation. Initially one equation was provided by some of the scientists, and that was only applicable to the hydrocarbon. Later, some other people modified those equations so that they can be applied to hydrocarbon as well as non-hydrocarbon systems. But we saw that when they took the data, they took data from some, there were some restriction actually based on the viscosity as well as diameter of the column and the pressure range and so on. So due to that reason, maybe they were predicting the efficiency, but in some cases that was not accurate. Some cases were also discussed in which we said that flow path along the tray, if that change, efficiency changes as compared to the efficiency predicted by those equations. So due to this reason, people still kept on looking for more uh, different ways to find the efficiency, and one of that third one is semi-theoretical models. So we just left here yesterday. So a semi-theoretical model, and in that majorly is the Murphy efficiency. So as it's indicating semi-theoretical, that is somehow based on theory, and some things are based on the practical observed by the people. So with the passage of time, people start looking for more complex models to find the efficiency, and some scientists mentioned here, they developed number of equations which were a bit complex as compared to the earlier equation, and they provided the efficiency or better efficiency model. So these four efficiency models provided by four scientists mentioned here. So they assume that vapor and liquid stream, which are entering to each tray, they are of uniform composition. Uniform composition means when vapor are leaving from the one tray and they are reaching to the next tray, they become are well mixed with each other while traveling from bottom tray to the next tray. As well, the liquid which reached here from the downcomer, that is completely mixed, and that has a same composition throughout its stream. And as well, then it will come here on the surface of the tray in contact with the vapor. Definitely composition will change due to transfer of some component to the vapor and some from vapors to the liquid. And then it considered that when they leave, the liquid leave from here to the next tray, that is also again well mixed when it is just moving down through the down cover. So this was one of the assumptions of all these models. So Murphy vapor efficiency developed by the scientist Murphy, that is considered as the oldest and most widely used, and he derived the equation, or he actually gave the equation based on some more additional assumption. All of these considered that there is uniform composition of the liquid and vapor when they are coming in contact. Uniform for liquid mean all liquid contents have the same composition when they reach to this plate, as well the vapor which are just reaching to this plate, all vapor have same composition. But what he considered here, two more assumptions, and those include like a uniform liquid composition on the tray that is equal to the liquid which is leaving from the tray. Actually, what he considered that when the liquid is here on the surface of any tray and it is coming in contact with the vapors, and when then liquid leave from this tray through the downcomer when it is moving down towards next tray, this composition is same here as well on the surface of the tray. Uh, other scientists, they just consider that when liquid is leaving from the downcomer, that has similar composition all over the liquid stream which is leaving. But this considered that as well on the surface of the plate, this composition will be same. So this is actually assumption of which you call usually continuous mixing tanks, or continuous, yes, in if I just compare it with the reaction system, which you call CST, or assumption that it is well mixed throughout the tank in which you are bringing in contact. And based on that, when you consider that anything leaving from the reactor has same composition as it is inside the reactor, and that is assumed when we consider that it is well mixed system. So that assumption he took. And the other assumption was like plug flow of vapor passes through the liquid, and the vapor passing through this, they are also well mixed when they are reaching to the uh, plate or tray. So these were its assumption, and what they considered here quickly, although we will not go in much detailed derivation, but this is one of the tray shown as well. You can see here it's like when it is installed inside any column, you know that there is a tray downcomer. If this is nth tray, anything coming from top to this tray to downcomer is the liquid stream, and then vapor stream is coming from just n plus from tray behind this, that is n plus 1. And when liquid and vapor, they come in contact with each other, and then the liquid leave from this, and the area where liquid and vapor are in contact with each other and froth formation, and that takes place, they took it as height as ZF. So here are few factors like N later on when we jump towards next equation on the next slide. So N is the mass transfer rate for absorption from gas to the liquid. Mass transfer rate kg per second, kg per minute for absorption from liquid to gas, anything which is transferred from the liquid to the gas, how much in a time, unit time, so that is N. And this for species I, we can take it for any one species. So kg, you know that overall gas mass transfer coefficient. So that consists of liquid as well as gas mass transfer coefficient, that we call it overall gas transfer coefficient. So then there is something called a small vapor liquid interfacial area, the area where vapor and liquid are coming in contact with each other, and the interface formed between vapor and liquid, its area is small a. Overall tray area, I think is considered as capital AT. Later on we will see somewhere AT, total area of the tray, and out of that area, you know that there is some part in which vapor and liquid come in contact with each other, while there is some portion on the tray where there is space for the liquid coming from the top tray to this tray, that is called downcomer area. And as well there is downcomer area for transfer of liquid to the downward tray. So mentioned here in diagram is AD. AD is area of the downcomer, and this area of bubbling or the area of contact of vapor and liquid, and total area of tray is considered as a capital T, and that will be sum of these area of bubbling plus 2 areas of downcomer, because on each plate there will be considered as 2 areas, one for transfer of liquid to this plate and one transfer of liquid from this plate to the next plate. This is same active bubbling area. Then there is something called ZF, height of the combined vapor liquid tray hold up. When they are in contact and somehow froth formation also takes place, all that height starting from the surface of the tray, that is considered as ZF. Then there is Y. Y is the mole fraction of any component in the vapor stream that is leaving from the tray, and there will be something Y asterisk. This is again vapor mole fraction of some component on the surface of tray when vapor and liquid are in contact with each other. There is some derivation in your text which I have just skipped because there was derivation for this one equation, but we will see number of equations related to this. So for all other it is missing, so I've also skipped it, and I think no need to go through that. But if you are interested, you can see and have any question can ask me that how you are proceeding with that. But that is not that important, you can just leave. So mercury vapor efficiency. This mercury vapor efficiency is considered for one tray on which we calculated the efficiency after considering these number of parameters and going through certain steps. You reach finally to this equation which is called mercury vapor efficiency, and this is for one. The things that we discussed, most of the time we were discussing the efficiency of all column, all trays throughout the column, but with this method you will be getting the efficiency of one tray, and that is after derivation reach to something 1 minus e raised to the power minus NOG, or you can just rearrange it and you will get this part of equation, and the third part NOG, this we call it number of overall gas phase mass transfer unit. I hope you already studied these things, this as well as there was something constant overall gas mass transfer coefficient when you studied the mass transfer fundamentals. So hopefully you are aware about these terminologies, but if not, kindly just revise them. So that is rearranged to something ln of 1 minus EMV. So it's mean if we can find number of gas transfer unit, and this is based on something those kg, kl and those things, this can be calculated most of the time, and when you can calculate it, it's mean you can find efficiency of the tray. As well, if we know the mole fraction of the component, any component I, which is just reaching to that tray from the bottom tray, as well on the surface of this tray, or leaving from this tray, and then on the surface of this tray when they are in contact with each other, so that can also be found. But to find these vapor mole fraction on the surface of any tray, that is difficult as compared to this. We can easily find this NOG and can use this equation to find mercury vapor efficiency. So mercury vapor efficiency does imply that completely mixed liquid phase is at its bubble point, so that liquid equilibrium vapor phase mole fraction can be obtained. Yes, if you have to use this equation, but you can consider that on the surface of tray, the liquid is at its bubble point, and when you know that what is the liquid and if do its temperature, we can measure the temperature inside the columns by installing various temperature measuring devices. So in those cases, then you can find somehow that what will be the mole fraction of that component in this. But as I said, that this creates more complexity. Most of the time when you will be calculating, you will be using second part of the equation. So When on the surface of tray, the liquid which is moving on the surface of tray, which is moving along the surface of tray, that will satisfy the complete mixing assumption, as this was one of the assumption of this method. As I told you that composition will be same throughout the surface of this tray as well when it is leaving. So he is mentioning that this can only satisfy if liquid leaves or travel a short distance across the tray. When the distance traveled by the liquid on the surface of the tray will become large or higher, then it will become difficult to reach this, that liquid is well mixed throughout the surface of tray. Well mixed will give you the homogeneous composition. But if suppose tray is like 10, 20, 30 feet long, and on that liquid is moving, in those cases then well mix is difficult to consider, because there will be not complete mixing throughout the surface of tray. So due to this reason, yesterday we studied this to avoid such kind of problems. Then we go for more than one passage, so that we can consider that liquid moves or travel short distance, and this can be collected and then can be moved towards next day. And in that case, when there is a short distance traveling, this assumption will be valid, or the efficiency, if you calculate by using these equations, then that will be close to the reality and the error will become less. So as I said, that this is efficiency of the one tray, but if there is a complete mixing, that is fine. But in other cases, sometimes you also go for some other kind of efficiency related to this, that is called Murphy vapor point efficiency. This is again on the surface of one tray, but we consider a small portion of the tray and consider that what is efficiency on that that small portion, and that is called Murphy vapor point efficiency. And why it's calculated, or why we go for this, when there is incomplete liquid mixing on the surface of tray. Murphy or their scientists suggested that if there is not complete mixing on the surface of tray, then we can find it by using this equation, which is given here, Murphy vapor point efficiency. And in that equation is similar to the above one, but here you will be considering definitely small portion, small part, and in that you will just look for its value, because if there are more than one portion, more than one parts, you can find the values of these mole fraction on the surface of that tray and on various points, and can find number of these vapor point efficiencies. So the scientist Lewis suggested that when there is a complete mixing on the surface of tray, when there is a complete mixing, if you find the efficiency on the various points of the tray, suppose I find efficiency here, here, and here on the number of points on the surface of the tray, and if liquid is well mixed, definitely this efficiency on each point then will be equal to the efficiency which we call it Murphy vapor efficiency or overall efficiency on the surface of tray. So for complete mixing on the surface of tray, the value of Murphy vapor efficiency will become equal to Murphy vapor point efficiency, because due to complete mixing on each and every point, efficiency will be same as if you just consider calculate it for the whole tray. So but if there is no mixing, and though no mixing related to, again, is considered as plug flow of the liquid across a tray. In that case, you know that in plug flow systems we consider that it keeps on moving, and there is no back mixing or like that. When there is no mixing, so in those cases then what will it become? Then he derived, or he provided this relationship that Murphy vapor efficiency can be linked to the Murphy vapor point efficiency by this correlation. And in that, actually there is something called gamma, that is equal to mv over L, and this m is called slope of equilibrium line. And if we consider that equilibrium line, suppose this is slope, and if you consider that y is equal to mx plus b, this simple equation of linear, equilibrium line is linear, and this y is equal to mx plus c or B anything. So if that is considered as 0, intercept is considered as 0, so it's mean the line should pass through the origin. So in that case, then he said that this slope becomes equal to the k value for any component which you are separating. So finally, this gamma, which was equal to mv over L, m is the slope of equilibrium line, and if equilibrium line is passing through the origin, then this m is equal to k, and your equation turn to the lambda is equal to k of any component I or k, v vapor flow rate, and L is the liquid flow rate. And you already know that L over kV is actually equal to absorption factor. So this gamma is something just reciprocal of the absorption factor. So this A, you already know this, that for absorption factor we studied earlier when we discussed this, that optimum value is 1.4. If that is less than 1.4, definitely there will be not good absorption, or required absorption that will be less, and mean component not absorbed will be more. So when we reach to the 1.4, then that reach to the quite close to the 100%. And in that case, if you put in this equation 1.4 for absorption factor, you will get gamma is equal to 0.7. So it means you can say that for gamma, the optimum value is 0.7, or then less than 1, because if you keep on increasing the value of A above 1.4, definitely gamma will decrease. So its value either 0.7 or less than this will be good for you in for the good absorption. So here we have discussed two actually extremes. One is complete mixing and one is no mixing. So out of these two, but in reality, usually you lie in between somewhere where there is a partial mixing. So some other people work on those things because there are more realistic cases, and they are more complex, because to achieve complete mixing, that is also difficult. And at the same time, there is some mixing, mean there will be not case of no mixing until unless you are like in complete streamlined region. But that is not possible, and industrial scale definitely your flow are most of the time turbulent, and so still they are not complete, but in between that, that we call it partial mixing. So for case of partial mixing, Grester et al. They developed this equation, which is a very complex equation, but that provide the result close to the reality, and in which EMV, that mercury vapor efficiency, mean efficiency of one plate, and that is compared with the efficiency on the various points on the plate, and that is linked with this equation in that is a bit complex equation, in which he linked actually EMV over EOV with the Packlet number NPE, and Packlet number, you know, that is equal to somehow we call it uh, convective mass transfer to the diffusive mass transfer. It is ratio of those. So ZL is the length of flow path along the surface of the tray, V is the velocity. So this length along the flow path into velocity, this will give you convective mass transfer, and then there is a diffusive mass transfer, that is a diffusive sorry, eddy diffusivity, or diffusivity you can call it. So here Z is the liquid flow path along the tray, DE is eddy diffusivity, and then there is U is the mean liquid velocity across the tray. So if we know all these things, you can find this number, and when we can find this Packlet number, then we can link it with the finding of EMV over EOV. And he provided here some equation, sorry, based on this equation, one diagram, simplified diagram. So let's quickly look at that and go for some discussion. So here you can see that in this diagram 6.23, what he linked these vector gamma E over V. Gamma was just reciprocal of the absorption factor, and you have done some earlier calculation. We can easily find most of the time absorption factor. Only thing needed is just to find k value, and that can be found with the number of mean equations. So when we can find a, its mean gamma can be found. So EOV, gamma into EOV, if we know the value of this factor, and we can find what will be the ratio between efficiency of the plate to the efficiency on one point. And this is just linked with this or it is dependent on the Packlet number. So you can see here Packlet number in this first part of the diagram is varying from 0.5 to infinity. So what does this mean? Here I think equation is given, yes, ZLU over DE. When you look at this equation, its value will be less if diffusivity is higher, and this factor which is in the numerator, that is small or low. Diffusive, we are calling it eddy diffusivity. When there are more eddies, that means there is a more mixing on the surface of tray, and then this value of this diffusion constant will be higher, and when it is higher, it's mean your Packlet number will be less. And when Packlet number is less, for example, here we can see an earlier lines, when Packlet number is less and we are saying there is a higher diffusion, more eddies formation on the surface of tray, what does that indicate? That there is complete mixing, there is a lot of mixing. So when there is a lot of mixing, it's mean the vapor point efficiency and efficiency of a complete plate, they will come close to each other. So due to this reason, here you can see when its value is lowest one, you will be close to the 1 or just near to the 1.1 somehow. But as you keep on increasing the value of this number, Packlet number, then you can see that their ratio is increasing. It's mean there will be a huge difference between efficiency, point efficiency, and efficiency of the complete tray. And when that will be possible, actually when there is a less value of either diffusivity or this flow path. If you just increase this ZL was flow path on the surface of the tray, the length of liquid across the tray. So if we just increase this length across the tray, definitely its value will increase. And when Packlet number is increased, already we discussed few minutes back that if you increase the length of fluid flow across the tray, in those cases complete mixing assumption didn't remain valid, and in those cases when it is not valid, its mean complete mixing will not be taking place, and difference between EMV and EOV will keep on increasing. While in the B part of this diagram, there is a much larger range of this Packlet number is given, in which you can see that we are varying it from 0.5 to 30 and so on. So you can see here, this is a log plot. So on this surface, you can see that if you keep on increasing its value, the difference between mercury vapor efficiency and vapor point efficiency will become huge and larger. And in those cases, they will be just like reaching close to the point where there is no mixing. So here for this equation to be valid, there are certain limitations on these, or this equation was developed based on the certain number that this for diffusivity, the value just varies from 0.02 to the 0.2 feet square per second, as well the value of U over DE, this factor U over DE, that is just ranging from 3 to 15 per feet. Its unit will be perfect. So that's the, like in these ranges, this is valid. Otherwise, if your ranges are just above or below this, definitely the efficiency predicted by this equation again will not be that good. And then after achieving, for example, if we can find this efficiency of the one plate, then someone linked this efficiency with the overall efficiency of the plant, or sorry, not plant, overall efficiency of the column, and that was called E0, overall efficiency. So that is linked with the mercury vapor efficiency by the Lewis by using this equation, which is which involves only two parameters. One is lambda, which we just said that is reciprocal of the absorption factor, and mercury vapor efficiency. So if we can find mercury vapor efficiency by the number of equations discussed already, so that can be linked with this overall efficiency. So when two lines are straight and parallel, two lines mean one line operating line and other is equilibrium line. For any system when they are parallel, then gamma usually is equal to or close to the 1, and the equation become E naught is equal to EMV here, this equation. And also he said that when EMV is equal to 1, E naught will definitely equal to the 1. So regardless of value of gamma. So if somehow gamma reaches to the 1, uh, overall efficiency of the trace throughout the column and efficiency of any one of the trace, they will become equal. So this equation, later on when you solve the problem, you will need to find the mercury vapor efficiency by using the equation we saw earlier here somewhere at the start here. So if we can find the efficiency by using this equation, that can be linked with the efficiency of the complete column. And in between we discussed some of the cases in which we said that if there is a, because that equation was developed based on the condition that there is a complete mixing through on the surface of the tray, and in that case vapor point efficiency was considered equal to mercury vapor efficiency or efficiency of one complete tray. And if there is no complete mixing, there is no mixing, completely plug flow, then in that case there was an equation. But as I said that these are too extreme and most of the time they are not possible, so there are some solution for in between or partial mixing, and that can be found either by using this equation or otherwise we can find it with the help of some diagram. So that's the more preferred way. And in that there is a Peclet number, and Peclet number we said this is ratio between the convective transfer to the diffusive transfer of the mass. So that's it. This was the method which is called semi-theoretical method, and which is majorly based on mercury efficiency. And related to this, there is one small example or question in your text just after this topic. So that is actually here he asks us to calculate overall column efficiency, and overall column efficiency is given, and you are supposed to find efficiency of the one tray and EOV. So that's pretty straightforward, easy. Yes, you can find it quickly or easily, because one equation related overall efficiency and EMV we have just discussed here. And for the other case, there he I think considered it something partially mixed or some system, and I think some in statement it is mentioned, you can get the idea that which of the equation can be used to calculate vapor point efficiency, and that will be in link with this mercury vapor efficiency. So the next and the last part of this is the tray efficiency by scale up of data. So as its name mentioned, for scale up of data, it's mean we have to do some of the experiments on the lab scale, and then we have to just scale up for, or we have to use those results for something called large scale plant or industrial scale towers. So that is named as Oldershaw column. So that is some specific type of the column we will discuss, and based on that this method is developed. So why we go for scale up of the data, first of all there should be some reason behind this, that why to use this. So when we are looking for efficiency and then actual number of trays, sometime mean unavailability of vapor liquid equilibrium data. You are considering such system, although mean for number of system in the data books of chemical engineering, equilibrium data for mean thousands of components is available, you can find that. But for maybe you are bringing such vapor and liquid in contact for which if data is not available, in that case then when equilibrium data is not available, will be difficult to go for calculations by using earlier methods which we have discussed. To find that theoretically how to by using either that was something graphical method or the algebraic method. So in this case that will not be feasible. As well, if your system is highly non-ideal with possible formation of azeotrophs, so in those cases also the efficiency predicted by earlier method will not be good, or that will be not sufficient. So for that then it is there is a need to perform some experiment and develop or to calculate the efficiency or number of trays required for some specific separation. So what is this Aldershot column? The method in this method which is used is small glass or the metal sieve plate column. You can see here in this diagram that there are the trays or the sieves and trays, and they are sieve type. You studied 3 types. Out of those, this is sieve type tray, and that is simple glass or metal sieve tray column. So with the center to center downcomer, center to side, sorry. You can see that here in this diagram in the middle there is a wear height and liquid is collected, and then when it travels to the down plate it reaches to the side as in the normal column, and then again on this surface it will be just distributed throughout the tray, and then it will be collected and just keep on moving. So this is called center to side downcomer tower. So its diameter is usually just 1 to 2 inch, because this is lab scale equipment. So number of trays can vary based on your requirement as well. So for these holes on the surface of this plate, they are usually in this range of 0.035 to 0.043 inch, and whole area is approximately 10% on the surface of tray, just 10%, and pressure range of 3 to 165 psi. They can be operated in these range. So I think maybe you have seen in hair separation lab, there are some column, they are quite close to this in our main department. Hopefully we will perform those experiments related to distillation. So that's quite similar type of the column, glass column containing trays, and those trays are just perforated or these sieve trays, and they have quite close to this in the specifications. So here the data developed by these kind of the column and observed with these kind of column, they are in good agreement with 1.5 to the 4 feet diameter industrial or pilot scale. Suppose you did some separation in such small column and then installed a big column up to 4 feet diameter, ranging from 1.5 feet to the 4 feet. So for example, you were achieving some efficiency which was, just say for example, 90% absorption of some component in this small tower. That was also the same efficiency when you applied it up to this range. But above this range, then there are some deviations from the efficiency of these columns. But up to this range, it works well, or the data predicted by this and the number of trays predicted by this was required separation, that is almost feasibly equally can be used for the industrial size column. So this Aldershot column achieves complete mixing of the liquid on each tray, because you have observed that there is a very small tray. It is only 1 to 2 inch in diameter whole column, and if it is 2 inch tray on that surface, there is a complete mixing small plate. So when vapor are just passing through, the liquid can get completely mixed. So in that case here, and there is a complete mixing, so definitely efficiency will be better. So then someone just linked this data actually predicted by this for usage on the large scale or scale of procedure. Then how to use this data predicted by this method for designing large scale column, that is to determine the flooding point. First of all, by using this column or this Aldershot method, we have to determine what is the flooding point, and this we will start by the next lecture, flooding velocity determination. So the same method can be used to determine the flooding velocity in this small size of column. When you have determined, then they said that you have to operate your operation at 60% of the flooding when you are designing your own column for a large scale application. Then the 60% of that flooding point on that your column should be operated, and run the system to find a combination of plates and flow rates that gives the desired degree of separation. So then the next step is when you have decided, because flooding is not good, next time we will discuss this. So you have to just run the plant or that equipment below the flooding point, and that he mentioned here, you have to run it at 60% of the flooding, and 40% of the flooding point. And this we will start by the next lecture, flooding velocity determination. So when we are running at 60% of the flooding, then just perform the experiment and find that how many trays are needed, what are the flow rates, and the separation which we want to achieve is done with those, or we have to change the plates, and based on that finally you can reach to the conclusion that how many plates will be needed. And then at the end we have to assume when we are done with this, for example, we started initially, we found the flooding point, then operated the column at the 60% of the flooding point, and then determined that for specific separation how many number of trays and what are the flow rates of liquid and vapor needed. And then if we just scale up this, we install a large size plant or a tower of absorption that is like having same number of trays, and if we use same ratio of liquid to vapor flow rates, definitely for this small scale plant the small scale column flow rates will be high. Just we scale them up but keep the same ratio of liquid to vapor, then that column will perform well as per prediction of this Older method. So this method is as when we started that this method is used in those cases when there is a large complexity and not easy to predict the efficiency by earlier methods. So not I think used widely, but in specific cases you can need it. So finally after this, when we know that how many number of trays will be there, we can specify that what should be the spacing between the trays. It's mean then we will be able to find overall height of the column. So height of column between the top tray and bottom tray is determined by number of actual trays. When you have found now, after finding the efficiency, initially you know theoretical number of trays, then we studied different method to determine the efficiency. So when now you know the efficiency, you can just use theoretical trays and efficiency, and in that equation only unknown is the actual number of trays. So after finding actual number of trays, then you have to decide that what should be the tray spacing. So so that we know that at how away the trays should be placed, and based on that you can find that what will be the height of the tower. But additionally there are few things which you have to add to determine the total height of the tower, and that is you have to add these are some conventions when you are going to design the column or going to decide the height of the tower. So you have to add 4 feet above the top tray, and why that's needed is that removal of undrained liquid that is just going upward with the vapors, that liquid should be removed just before vapor leaves the tower. So 4 feet is just added at the top of the top tray, and then there is a 10 feet below the bottom tray for the bottom liquid surge capacity. That means that there should be some space for the liquid. If liquid comes in the large amount inside tower, that shouldn't flood the plates. If you don't keep some space behind the bottom tray, if liquid will start accumulating on the surface of trays and throughout the column, so in that case you will be just flooding the trays, the bottom trays, and when they are flooded, actually they are totally covered in the liquid, and vapor and liquid contact will become less. So we need the vapor and liquid contact, because trays help us to achieve some separation. So there should be some space at the bottom of the tower where liquid is actually accumulated before leaving the column, and that is somehow 10 feet, almost 10 feet below the bottom tray. So then overall this is above the top tray, 10 feet below the top tray, and in between there will be trays, and around those there will be some space. So based on this we can calculate the height of column, and here is mentioned if height is greater than 250, then 2 or more column can be arranged in series. That will be preferable to a single column, to install a single column, because due to hydrodynamics and that will be a bit difficult to handle the tower that is too high in height. So but in your text I think he mentioned that in the world there is some tower that has close to, I think it is 374 feet height. So that is installed somewhere around the world for absorption of the gases in some gas plant. So that's it. I think next there is a new topic to look for flooding and column diameter. So hopefully we will start with that next time. So just up to here. If you have any questions, before that I will just quickly summarize. Today we discussed two methods for determination of efficiency, and the one method which is preferably more widely used, that is Murphy vapor efficiency, and then there is finally uh, there are equations which link the different efficiencies, and the other method which was some lab scale method which can be scaled up to use on large scale or industrial scale. So thank you so much. If you have any question, just let